How is everybody today? First question,
Thank you for shout out.
chocolate or vanilla? What do you think? Chocolate or vanilla?
Me?
Yeah.
I think it's situational. I think it depends on the situation. You know, if it's apple pie, then like definitely vanilla. But if it's
Right.
like hot chocolate or hot vanilla milk, then I'm gonna go with chocolate.
Yeah. I think for me, it's chocolate like all the time, all the way. 100%. Like, fuck vanilla. I want chocolate.
Damn.
Anyway, how you doing this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Little bit stressed. We were talking about that before we went live. Like this, I picked probably a bad weekend to go be on baby duty for my brother and his wife.
Is it ever a weekend though?
Right. I know. Yeah, that's the question. Like, is it ever really like a good time? Like, it's gonna be wonderful, but it's also gonna suck, of course, because it's baby duty and not sleeping very much. So, I'm a little bit stressed. But you know, the thing is, I'm happy to help because they have been dealing with this crisis situation of having 3 feral creatures in their house for the last month, and you know, these tiny shit and puke machines.
Yeah.
I'm happy to give them a break because it was both of their birthdays, like last weekend or the weekend before that.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a birthday present for both of them too.
It's like, are all of their birthdays like really close together?
Yep.
Even the first one?
Addie, I think, was born in April. She was like a true pandemic baby because she was born like in April of the first year of the pandemic. So yeah, I mean, yeah. So the twins were born like September, end of September, and then both my brother and his wife have birthdays like mid-October. So
Yeah.
they got twins, Keater, and they got twins.
Yeah, they had one, and then they had twins on top of that.
It wasn't the plan to have twins, obviously. I think they just wanted one more.
Is it ever planned?
No,
Is it
I
ever
don't know.
planned?
I don't know. My brother was really excited when he found out that it was going to be twins. He was really excited, but like, I think his excitement has faded a little bit because they are newborns, and newborns are terrible.
Oh my god, I didn't have very many friends in high school. I only had like a few really close friends, and one of my friends is a guy, and he got married within the last couple years, and then recently had a baby. And like, I don't really talk to him that much, but they kind of send out one of those like holiday, New Year's, like check-in email letter things. And he was like, you know, when we was checking in, he was like, don't let people fool you, babies are really hard. And like, I didn't want to like say anything to him. I know that he did not grow up around children. Like, he has a brother, but they're really close in age. And my mom was a daycare provider for all of my childhood, so I know what is involved with children, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not gonna have any. But
Yes.
I was just like, who told you that babies were easy?
Yeah.
Who said that to you? No, literally no one ever.
It's impossible. That's like the best word that I think I can think of to describe like raising a child or raising multiple children, is it's like impossible. Like, every day you're like, you have all of these tasks to do and you can't possibly do them all. Like,
So,
even with help.
Think about how hard it is to be a functioning adult
With no
on
baby.
your own.
Right.
And then add a non-functioning thing to the mix that you have to take care of.
Yes. So I don't understand how my brother and his wife are holding it together. It's just, if it's impossible, how did our parents do it?
My mom didn't work. My mom did not work until my brother and I were in school. And it was really hard for my parents, and because it was a single income, and honestly, my dad wasn't making that much money, but my parents decided, like, okay, my mom's not gonna go to work, she's gonna spend all the time at home taking care of the kids, like doing house shit. And then after we started going to school is when she went to get a job.
Yeah, I mean, and then the other thing is, like, it is impossible, and so this is why, like, you just have to accept imperfection, I think, as a parent. But as an adult period, you have to, like, in order to be sane, you have to accept that, like, you're not going to be able to do all the things and do all the things perfectly. But that's like level 5,000, over 9,000 when it comes to adding in children. And so it's like it's eye-opening to me, because it's like, no wonder so many people have stories about their parents being shitty or doing shitty things. And I just, like, am watching my brother go through this process and his wife going through this process of, like, raising these children, and it's like, yeah, well, no wonder that our parents, like, drop the ball from time to time. I mean, it's not that, like, absolutely there's people who were, like, really, really, truly shitty parents, but I think even good parents do shitty things sometimes or drop the ball, because it's just impossible to stay, on top of everything and stay sane, and you know what I mean? Like, so it's I feel like I made such a good choice of not having children. I'm just so happy I'm so happy to be the aunt. And yes, I get to spoil the babies myself and then go back to my nice quiet house with my puppy dog and you all. But it's crazy. Hey, New Brain, how are you? And Duchess is here.
Hello, everyone.
You gotta lurk. Your niece is there, and she's dressed like a pumpkin. I get to participate in that stuff this weekend too. I get to see the babies dressed up as pumpkins, and
wow,
that's gonna be fun. Oh, there was another question that we missed. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I think it's more like a taco. I do not have a belly button ring. I've tried multiple times to get my belly button pierced and it never sticks. It always gets infected.
I do not, because I have no interest in having pain down there.
It's not, that's not really a good idea if you lift weights or you do martial arts.
Right? Yeah. I always had to, like, take my nose ring out when I would, like, roll in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And it seals up so fast. Like, it heals up really fast.
It does.
If I don't put it back in, like, within 24 hours, I basically have to, like, re-pierce my nose. It's awful. There's no way a hot dog is a taco. Those are two opposite things.
I've said they're more like a taco than a sandwich. I think a hot dog it's like, I think they're more similar. I don't necessarily think it's the same thing, but I think it's more similar.
Rufus is acting like he wants to join us.
H. Jones, I don't know if you know, but actually everybody has abs. Unless they were born without an abdomen, everybody has abs. That's just the way bodies are made.
Yes. And here is my critter who wants to participate in the Fit Girl chat. Yeah, we both have abs. Now, my abs are less visible right now because I am on a bulk, and I'm not trying too hard to stay shredded and not toned, but, like, I'm not trying to stay too shredded and lean because my priority right now is building strength. So, there are people who are... Go ahead.
YOLO bulking right now.
Yeah, me too. YOLO bulking, exactly.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm trying to get those tree trunks. And no, we're not going to show our abs. We have, like, channel point redemptions for that. So if you want to follow and earn your channel points, you can do that. Or you can sub, and maybe we'll do a flex.
That's true.
Are we defining
subs, bruh?
Are we defining sandwiches versus tacos in terms of ingredients, or defining in terms of form factor?
Well, to be fair, I think that hot dogs and tacos have very similar fillings.
Yes. I see hot dogs as more like a sub. Like a sub sandwich. It's bread versus a fucking tortilla.
I mean, but they're made of similar ingredients. It's just like tortillas are not they don't get big. I don't know what the word is, I forgot.
What conversation did I just walk into? Hey, Fearjoy, how are you? We are discussing whether we should categorize hot dogs as sandwiches or perhaps tacos. Rise, that's right, yeah. So taco shells don't rise. I never had a hot dog, wiener, and mustard in my tacos.
But look, I'm saying they both usually have like some kind of meat. They both have some kind of sauce usually, and they both have like some toppings. Sometimes you put your vegetables. Sometimes you got like relish. You got onions on your hot dogs. Okay, so is that much different than like tomatoes or onions or cilantro like on your tacos? I'm just saying, bro. I put cheese on my hot dogs.
I see what you mean. I just feel like it's more of a sub though. Like, cause sub sandwiches sometimes are like the...
Well, if it's like a sub sandwich, then is it a sandwich?
Then I guess it is a sandwich. That's my theory. But the hot dog is just the meat, right? The bun is just separate. We are going to be talking about... We put down a lot of stuff that we wanted to talk about today.
We got a whole Google Doc of stuff to talk about.
Yes. And we kind of already touched on like the main topic that we wanted to talk about. Yeah. Jones was asking if we had abs and if and for us to show them. So and we both mentioned that we're both kind of on a YOLO bulk right now, not paying too much attention to trying to stay totally shredded, because our goals respectively are to build muscle right now, and that's where we're both at. We're both in a phase where we're just really trying to pack on that muscle. And this phase of our training is typically called a bulk in the fitness and wellness or the bodybuilding community. And the winter bulk is real. Yes, winter is often the season for bulking, because when it comes to bulking, generally speaking, when you're trying to build muscle, you need to be eating a calorie surplus. Generally speaking, that's the most efficient way to build muscle. Usually people recommend somewhere between 100, 250 to 300 calories of a surplus. How much of a surplus you do is really up to you. Some people do a dirty bulk where they're not even really counting calories, and they just eaten, and it's like, I know I'm at surplus. How much of a surplus every day is kind of variable. And I think, yeah, Chris and I are both kind of doing a little bit of a dirty bulk right now in terms of like, I'm not really tracking. I'm eating healthy, but like, I'm not tracking anything but my protein right now, and just really focusing on trying to pack on my muscle and recover from my workouts, because I'm hitting it really, really hard right now. I've got really high volume. I'm doing the Juggernaut AI program, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. But the recovery is essential. You know, if I tried to do this program on a cut, I would be feeling pretty bad. What about you? How's your phase going?
I am at the point where I think I need a break from tracking. So just like a mental health break from tracking. I'm still focusing on getting in a ton of protein. I typically, nowadays, I'm eating like 3 meals a day, and I always prioritize my protein, because like, what's the point of gaining if I'm not going to be building muscle? Well, this morning I weighed in around 150. I would say when I started, just not really tracking my food, I was around like 145. And I'm looking to kind of be in this growing phase until January. So what is this? October, November, December, like 2 months.
Yeah.
I'm expecting to get up to like 155, 160, and then go into a cut in January.
Yeah.
So I think it's, besides it just being like a nice time for me to take a break, do a little bit of building, I think specifically for the fitness and health community here on Twitch, I think we're going to have a lot of new faces in the chat come New Year's, and I think it would be good for the people that do stick around to see and maybe even to go on a cut with me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's kind of like my headspace.
Yeah, and I'll be there with you. I'll be right there with you doing a cut myself about that time. You know, it's like typically for people who live in America or Canada, it's, you know, winter time is bulk season. This time of the year around Christmas is when people tend to bulk because like Joey was saying in the chat, like you wearing all kinds of layers and clothes, nobody's gonna see your belly, you know, and also there's all kinds of yummy food around because of the holidays. So it's a great way to kind of like, if you're gonna be having some treats around the holidays, at least you can put those treats to work with those extra calories to help you build some muscle. And then, you know, once January comes and the holidays are over for the most part, except for Valentine's Day, but not everybody celebrates Valentine's Day anyway, then you can kind of start to cut down the amount of calories that you're consuming and prioritize fat loss. And this is like what most people who are more advanced in their training journey will do. You know, they'll cycle between cut phases and bulk phases. And something that Yulia Lifts said a little while ago when she raided into my channel was like, especially for women, women have a tendency to just be like super afraid to bulk. Women are very, very reluctant to bulk. And I've also known some dudes who also feel that way too. They're like afraid that they're gonna get bulky. And even just like the term bulk has like negative association for them because they're afraid that they're gonna get bulky and envision, I'm not even sure all the time like what they're envisioning. Sometimes they think about like Arnold Schwarzenegger and they're gonna start looking like that.
I think a lot of times also people that maybe have already started bigger with more body fat and have lost a lot of weight, but they want to build muscle, they have a hard time imagining wanting to gain weight again, and they're worried about just like putting on fat, and it's a big mental struggle for them. Yeah. So, and that's true for like men and women, I think. Something universal that people can agree on, that like once you've lost weight, you're always scared of putting it back on. Yeah. If you started a little bit bigger.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because there's sort of like this association with the number of this on the scale as being like the be all and end all measurement of their progress and their fitness. And this is why we a lot of times will talk about like the scale is one measurement. It's one measurement. It is not the end all be all. When it comes to, especially when it comes to like losing fat, you know, gaining weight doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to look like, you know, overweight in terms of like having too much fat. As you build muscle, your body naturally becomes heavier, and you can continue to shrink in size while you're also getting heavier. And this is what most people who are serious about their training in the bodybuilding community, but also just in the fitness and wellness community, this is something that you'll notice eventually. If you're building muscle, you might see the scale not moving or going up, but your clothing sizes are going to shrink, and the inches around your belly are shrinking and are going down. And
you'll see more muscle definition.
Yes. But at the same time, if you hyper focus on that number on the scale, you rob yourself of that sense of progress that you're obviously making. And so I think what we also wanted to talk about today was like different aspects of mental health when you're in a bulk and when you're in a cut, because it's something you want to be mindful of, your mindset, where your head is at. if you want to be successful in doing either a bulk or a cut. You have to take care of your mental health and be prepared for the challenges that your mind is going to present, especially if you are someone who has been really heavy in the past, overweight or obese.
Especially if you struggle from other outside mental health issues.
Right. Yes. Let's see. We got somebody, a couple things in the chat. Scared of bulking, scared of success. This is why no one will remember your name, Cruiser. What's up, Mika? How are you? In my experience, a lot of people I know with hesitations are getting their information from people who don't know what they're talking about. Not that I'm an expert, but I consult expertise. Yes, I would agree with that because it's really frustrating for me because I'm a personal trainer by trade. That's my main gig. And I will do consultations with people, and it's so frustrating, and it usually is with a female potential client who says things to me like, I want to get toned, but I don't want to bulk. And they have been like following fitness influencers on Instagram or wherever else, and they've gotten this like unrealistic expectation of what it means and what it takes to get a body that looks like the way they want their bodies to look. And they completely skip over the necessity of bulking. If you want to get toned, if you want to have your muscle, if you want to have muscle definition, a decent amount of muscle definition, and a lean body fat percentage, you have to plan multiple phases that include bulking and cutting. Especially after that first initial 6 months of training, first 2 years even of training, you have to get focused. Yeah, gotta eat big to get big. I'm not sure if this is
honestly, like, kinda.
Yeah.
Kinda. I mean, you don't necessarily have to eat big, but you do have to be like in a surplus in order to build a decent amount of muscle. Right.
Yeah, and I see this all the time. And I actually just had a client who messaged me and she said, I feel like she's in a bulk right now. We planned this bulk. And she messaged me a little bit panicked because she said, I feel like I'm getting I feel like my fat is increasing in my belly right now. And for me, I'm like looking at it, and the amount of increase that she's gotten is really insignificant. And it's really common when you're in a bulk, if you're prioritizing building muscle and you're in a calorie surplus, you might put on a little bit of fat. You're gonna lose. You're
almost definitely gonna put on some amount of fat.
Right. And the thing is, like, you don't want it to get out of control. If you are in a bulk, you're gonna put on a little bit of fat. You're gonna lose some muscle definition. But that's what you need to go through that, because then later on you can shred that fat. You're not trying to put on a lot of fat, but like you do lose some muscle definition when you're in a bulk. But if you want to increase your muscle definition, if you want it to look better than it did before you went on your bulk, the reason why you went on your bulk, you have to go through the bulk first. And then you can focus on cutting the fat that comes away after you've built that muscle. But otherwise, you're just gonna stay in the same place. If you don't go through this bulk and cutting cycle, you're not going to see a whole lot of progress in the way that your body looks. Does either of you feel a way about body comp in relation to being on camera regularly? Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good question, Joey. I do. I think I definitely do. What about you, though?
I think I would be lying if I said it doesn't affect me, but at the same time, I think one of my strengths is that I can separate like my initial gut feeling with logic, and I can use my logical brain to like justify the way that I look.
Yeah.
And I will also say that sometimes I will have to tell myself, hey, you don't necessarily look your absolute best, but in the grand scheme of things, you still look really good.
Yeah.
So it's it's hard sometimes. As somebody, I take a lot of pictures of myself for social media. I see myself on camera every day. It's hard to like maintain like a healthy body image, but I just try really hard to scientifically and logically justify the way I look with like my workouts, with my calorie intake, with just life in general, and be kind to myself even if I'm not feeling the best about the way I look.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely feel some type of way sometimes when I'm on stream. And I mean, because I can see myself in the preview, you know, and then I also have to take a lot of pictures all the time for social media and for stream. So, I mean, like just exactly what Chris was saying. I think it's also a strength of mine as well. Like I feel very comfortable with myself, and I feel comfortable with the process because I trust the process. And I think for both of us, we've been through this cycle, and we have seen not only in ourselves but also in other women, but also in other men as well, the difference that allowing yourself to go through the process of eating a surplus amount of calories, allowing your body to put on a little bit more fat so that you can prioritize muscle gains. This is something that, you know, I think we both trust the process. And for someone who's new, I think that's also one of the reasons why it's so difficult for them to accept the concept of the bulk, because they don't trust the process yet. They don't have any experience with the process, you know, and it can be very nerve-wracking to enter into something that's completely new that you don't have any experience with. But there are lots of examples out there of women who've done it, of men who've done it. There's no shortage of examples, but it kind of comes down to what are you feeding your brain? Like for me, when I'm feeling this some type of way about this, I specifically go to the powerlifting ladies, the bodybuilding ladies, the natural bodybuilding ladies, especially that I know of, the other trainers who are posting on social media. These are people who have a lot of integrity, who are honest about, you know, whether they're natural or not. And I look specifically at their posts about when they're on their bulk or when they're in their bulk. I think it's something that we, maybe as female fitness, I guess, influencers or content creators, we need to talk about our bulks more often, because that, for me, has what's helped me to stay on target and stay on the plan, is seeing, you know, one of my girlfriends going through it, and then at the end when she starts to do her cut, seeing the amazing difference between her body at the, you know, before she started her bulk and then at the end of her cut that follows the bulk. And it's pretty incredible. It's amazing. So for me, like having those examples of like, okay, I'm feeling a little flabby, you know. But the other thing I think goes for me is I also have this acceptance of body dysmorphia, that like that's how my brain is. I have already just accepted as a given that I don't see myself the way other people see me, or the way that I actually look. And that also helps me to kind of just move past however my initial gut reaction is when I see myself on camera or when I see myself in pictures. I think you also have talked a little bit about that before, right?
Which part?
About like accepting a certain amount of body dysmorphia, that like you probably don't look like what you think you look like.
I guess. I think everybody has some degree of body dysmorphia. I personally don't have enough of it to affect my mental health.
Okay.
So I've never struggled to... There have been times in my life where I don't love the way I look. But I also don't think that I have such a problem with my body image, even when I was very skinny and even when I was at the top of my bulk. I was still happily doing like photo shoots in my underwear and stuff like that. And it doesn't really make me feel some type of way. Even to look back at the pictures now, I don't really feel some type of way about it. And I know that's not true for most people.
Yeah.
And I feel very lucky that my brain doesn't have hands in this sense.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. You definitely have you're in a better place, I think, when it comes to like body dysmorphia than I and then some other people that I know are in the chat as well have. I do think that the main thing is trusting the process. I think that's really the key is if you don't have that faith in the process, if you don't have that trust in the process, then you're gonna have wishy-washy, adherence and success. You gotta be ready to do the thing, to the full of its, eating the amount that you need to be eating and working out the way you need to be working out and doing it for as long as you need to do, however long you have your bulk planned. Because if you just are wishy-washy about it and you don't adhere to it, then your results are not going to be that great, Yeah.
I have personally bulked up and cut down like multiple times where I have like gained and lost like 30-ish pounds.
Okay.
They ask, opinion on body recomposition for inexperienced lifters. Can you gain muscle and lose fat in a calorie deficit?
For inexperienced lifters, if you're just starting the first 6 months of your training, yes, it's possible. And it is possible to build muscle in a deficit. It is just very, very hard and very, very slow. But if you're just beginning as a newbie, we have a term that's called newbie gains. The first 6 months to even a year of your training, you can make a lot of gains really, really fast, both building muscle and burning fat. It's not unheard of I know of people who've lost 10 pounds in the first month of their training and gotten some muscle on them. So it is possible, but there's a certain point where your body will adapt and you're going to need to get more targeted about your training and heading into more specifically focused phases of bulking and cutting if you want to continue to make progress. Do you have anything else to add to that?
It is also possible to do more than one body recomposition, but again, it's very difficult. You could maybe get 2 in your lifetime unless you took a complete break from working out. But I think for most people, it's not really in the cards, especially a more casual person. I think one of the reasons that newbie gains can be squandered is because as somebody new, you are not usually doing not even absolutely everything, the bare minimum to make the most out of your gains. So somebody that's new will probably go work out, but they might not have their diet on point. They might be eating less, but they probably won't have enough protein daily. And that's something that could affect their body recomposition. Or it could be that they are only working out a few days a week, and even if their diet is good, maybe their programming isn't the best, or they're doing a ton of cardio and not necessarily lifting enough to build a lot of muscle. So there's a lot of factors that go into a body recomposition. It's definitely a thing, but I think it's not as easy or as common as people might think.
Yeah. And Jinktastic also has an interesting point. The problem with bulk is that fat cells acquired never disappear. And does muscle growth really need a lot of daily surplus? Well, we mentioned before, the amount of surplus that your body spends in order to most efficiently build muscle is 350 calories above your maintenance level. I'm sorry, not 300, 250 to 300. 250 to 300 calories. That you don't really need to go any more above that. If you do, then yeah, you're right. Those fat cells will be replenished.
And the way fat cells work is you never lose them, but they shrink. So when you start gaining fat, they will, especially if you're doing it slowly. And that's something that I always recommend to people. Do everything slowly on a slow timeline. Don't like ass blast yourself. I tell everybody all the time, don't ass blast yourself.
Yeah.
And if you are not ass blasting yourself, if you're gaining weight slowly, the fat cells will expand first before, I don't remember what the word is, where they like cut in half and they split and you get more. So like, you have to give yourself a point where like, okay, I'm gonna be done cutting. So like, I'm gonna gain weight, I'm gonna do it slowly, I'm gonna be in a calorie surplus, but it's not gonna be a huge one, and I'm gonna go up to a certain point. I personally like to look for a body fat percentage that I'm going for rather than like a specific weight, because you don't know, you might put on more muscle than you think, and even though you weigh more, maybe your body fat percentage is still pretty low. So like, I go for like a certain body fat percentage, and that's when I'm like, okay, that's it, that's enough, I need to cut back again, or I need to go in a maintenance at least, let my body like adjust and then go back down. So like, you do have to put on a little bit of fat. Like it is impossible to put on pure muscle, but you can minimize the amount of overall fat that you're gaining, and you can like minimize the amount of new fat cells that you're creating by just being like really dialed in. But I will also say, I'm telling you this, I'm telling you, I don't always do this. Like now I'm eating whatever the fuck I want. And like, I'm okay with the fact that I'm gonna put on weight. I'm okay with the fact that I'm gonna get some fat. And if I gain some new fat cells, for me personally, I don't think it's gonna be that many, and I don't think I'm gonna have that hard a time losing weight when I decide to cut again.
Right. And that's all, it goes back to trusting the process, right? It's like, if you are planned, and if you are planning your bulk and you're very targeted and strategic about it, like only 250 calories to 300 calories of a daily surplus, like the amount of fat that you might gain is going to be very minimal, because what you're really directing that extra energy towards is building your muscles. Like, building muscle is a process where you are repairing damaged tissue. When you are in the gym, when you're doing your weight training, you're damaging your muscle. You're damaging your muscle tissue. You're creating microscopic tears and injuries all along them. And in order to build muscle, your body has to heal that damaged tissue and then re-fortify it to make it stronger, to make it the cells increase in size. This all takes energy. It takes your energy from your body, the food that you eat, to do this process. And when you're in a bulk and you give yourself that extra energy, you're making it more efficient for your body to heal those injuries and rebuild the muscle stronger. But at the same time, you might have some energy left over at the end of that process. You know, depending on how active you are, depending on how many calories you really do eat during your bulk. You may have a few left over here and there, depending on the day, and those might go towards fat stores. But the amount of fat that you're going to put on is if you are controlled about it and you're not overshooting your surplus, it's going to be very minimal and easy to carve off later. You know, it's I'm glad that you brought up the fact that you know, it's impossible, like nearly impossible when you're in a surplus to only put that surplus towards muscle. But by giving your body the right stimulus and staying active and not overshooting your surplus, you can use...
And keeping your protein intake high.
Yes, and keeping the protein intake high, then you are maximizing the amount of that extra energy that is going towards building muscle. So it's not just... We're not just saying just eat a calorie surplus and that's it, and then, you know, you're gonna that calorie surplus goes towards fat. If you don't exercise, if you don't do your weight training, if you don't also get plenty of sleep, if you're not being mindful of your nutrition, then yeah, being in a calorie surplus alone, you're not gonna like the results. It's all part of a plan in the system. So it's not just about the calories itself.
don't think you should necessarily worry so much about how much fat you gain, as long as you're controlled about it and you have a goal in mind.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to what would be your recommendations if someone wanted to plan a bulk for themselves, and they say like they want to prioritize building muscle. What would be your recommendation for like how they should plan that out?
I will always say, I keep saying this, do it slowly. Don't try to make big changes. So if you're unsure where your maintenance calories are, or you're unsure how much of a surplus you want to be in, I would suggest pick where you think you might be at and use those calories and go from there. Slowly increase them. Give yourself like 2 weeks to adjust to that intake. And I know everybody doesn't feel the same way about this. I personally weigh myself every day so I can really get as much information as possible to know where I'm at. I would have a goal in mind. Like I said, personally, I like a body fat percentage goal, and I use that, I don't know if you have it, the thing that shows like what the percentages look like for most people. As a woman, I typically would not go past 25%. As for myself, since I'm already like relatively lean, I would not go past 25%. And then just give yourself time. There have been times where I've bulked for 6 months. There have been times when I bulked for a full year. And it's just, like I said, you have to trust the process. You have to think about your long-term goals and just have something in mind that you want.
I can bring it up here. The body fat percentage for women. There we go. So do you want to go through those?
Sure. So I would say personally, in general, at my leanest, I don't get under 15%. And probably now I'm somewhere between 18 and 20%. And I will allow myself in this bulk to get up to like 24 to 26%, 25. But I will not allow myself to go past that. So if I get there sooner rather than later, since I'm not really tracking, I'm gonna cut it off there. But if I was going to bulk for an extended period of time, I would just keep going until I got to that place, and then that's when I would cut it off. It's gonna be different for every person. It's gonna also be dependent on your mental health. It's gonna depend on your capacity to eat, which I know is a thing. And if you're a man, your percentages are probably gonna all be lower than that. So like, I don't think men would need to get up to 25%. Right. They typically just run leaner in general because of biology and things like that. Women need a higher body fat percentage for our basic human functions, and men can also run leaner for extended period of time. So Chitchley had a statement. I heard you should weigh yourself every day, but then at the end of the week do an average, and that's your real number. That's typically what I do. I have MyFitnessPal on my phone. I weigh myself in the morning after I've used the bathroom, but before I eat or drink anything, and I record that number, and I will use the graph that shows, even not just week to week, I will use the graph to make sure that I'm trending in the way that I want, either down or up. So I'll look over like a month or 2 months or however long I've been in this phase of my journey. And I will use the overall trend instead of hyper-focusing specifically on the daily weigh-ins. And I will say that's difficult for a lot of people the number on the scale can really affect somebody's mental health, especially when you're gaining weight. It's
Right.
difficult to see that number, but this is, again, like I said, I think it's a strong point of mine that I can look at that number, look at myself, and logically say, I am trying to gain weight, and that number is me putting on healthy muscle mass and maybe a little bit of fat, but that's okay. So that's why I look at the trends also instead of looking at the actual number, because some days I eat a lot for dinner, and if I eat a lot the night before, I'm probably not gonna get all of that out the next morning.
Right.
You know, so on that day I'll have like a higher weigh-in, or maybe the night before I didn't eat so much, maybe I went to bed early, so my number will probably be lower. Yeah, or if you're dehydrated, or if you're overhydrated, who knows?
Right.
So a lot of factors go into your weigh-ins, and that's why it's really good to look at the trends rather than the individual points on the graph.
Right.
War Diablo asked if we are natty or enhanced, and I am enhanced, but I have not used testosterone or hormones.
And I haven't used anything.
Mm-hmm. So I
no
can explain what I have used.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, explain.
Oh, okay. So I have tried Anavar, and I'm gonna say I don't know a lot of exactly what these things do, because I have a person in my life that is very smart and knows about these things, and I kind of just like defer to his expertise in these areas. But I did a cycle of Anavar. It was a low dose cycle of Anavar, and I probably only did it up to like 8 weeks, rather than a full like 12-week cycle. I decided to cut my cycle short because although I did see some results in terms of like strength, I was getting bad side effects. I felt like I was losing my hair really quickly, more quickly than usual, more quickly than somebody should be when they are not in a calorie deficit. And it was also really affecting the texture of my skin. I was getting a lot of acne, and it's not worth it to me to continue to use something. I would say that acne affects my mental health more than like putting on some weight, in fact. And the other thing that I'm using now is SARMs. I do Ostarine and Ibutamorin. It's also a very low dose. I don't really see a difference in my musculature. I've been lifting for almost 8 years. I've kind of looked the same-ish after about like 3 years of lifting. I haven't changed that much since then. It does really help with my recovery as somebody who a more advanced lifter. I have to, my workouts are pretty intense in order to keep building, even though I'm not building that much. The workouts are very intense, and I'm not that young anymore, and I have like ongoing joint problems. So I notice a big difference in my recovery. It also actually helps me sleep a little bit better, which is something that I always struggle with. The recovery part, the sleeping is my hands down the worst, the hardest thing for me to dial in.
You and Joey both, right? Like you both have trouble sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take anything except for creatine. I do take a creatine every day, and that's something I only started maybe a month and a half ago. I guess I'm 9 weeks into Juggernaut, and I think I started taking creatine in week maybe 4, so 5 weeks or so. And I think it's been helping with my recovery. I definitely am looking more swole.
I do take creatine also. I take creatine and BCAAs.
And BCAAs. That's right. Yeah, me too. Creatine, there are studies that have shown that the effects of creatine in terms of helping you to maximize your gains, maximize the amount of muscle that you build, and also help with recovery. And that's my main interest in taking any supplement, is it going to help me with my recovery? Because I also work out pretty hard. I do the Juggernaut AI program, and which is lots of volume. And my body is getting used to it, but initially it was a shock to my system. So I use BCAAs, which aren't proven either way, whether they help or not help with recovery and sustaining energy. But we both use them, and I do think they make a difference for myself.
I will say anecdotally, I don't, when I am taking it regularly, I don't notice a difference. Like, I still get sore when I have a particularly hard workout or if I'm coming off of a deload. But there have been times when, like, I was visiting a friend out of state. We did a workout and I didn't have my BCAAs and I was absolutely destroyed. So, like, to me, that tells me something. I also just kind of like having kind of a nice, tasty drink while I work out. So
yeah, a purple drink.
Yeah. And I also wanted to address that War Diablo said, I think he's referring to when I said I'm taking SARMs, he said you're doing it safe. And I will say I do not condone the use of performance enhancers like SARMs. They are not made for humans. And I would never tell anybody that they shouldn't do it. If you are interested in something like that, you need to do a lot of research. You need to as an adult, you need to make your own decision and think about if it's the right thing for you to do. I would also say that I 100% do not think anybody who is in like the first 3 years of their fitness journey, I don't think anybody should be using anything like that. Try to make as many gains as you can before even the thought of using any kind of like performance enhancer comes to your mind. And like I said, it's not necessarily safe for humans. It's not made for humans. Do your research and don't be a sheeple as I say this, and I don't know anything about it because Joey does all the research for me.
Yeah, and he is a pharmacist, and he's a very science brain. So
he's the pharmacist, yeah.
He's the pharmacist. Animal pump? No, I have not tried that.
I don't know what animal pump is. I will say I don't even really use pre-workout anymore, personally. I will take caffeine and I do drink caffeine, but I only use pre-workout on special occasions. And if you are looking for like a creatine, I don't think it's worth it to buy designer creatines. Just get the basic creatine monohydrate, get the cheapest you can find, and just dose it 5 grams. Was it 5 grams daily?
I don't remember.
I'd
have to go get my bottle, but it has.
Somebody tell us how many daily. But just like be consistent about it. Take it daily. You don't need to load it. You don't need to cycle it. Just add it into your routine. 5 grams daily. Thank you.
And it's also like
very basic, no frills.
Right. And you also, creatine is something that is naturally occurring in meats.
You just can't get enough of it from eating meat. Right.
The amount that your body can use to maximize your gains is more than what you are likely to get, unless maybe you're mini and you're eating miniature action.
Yeah, maybe if you're like a very large person, you might need more.
He eats like, what did he come in here and say he ate like 200 grams of protein or something? He's insane.
I can't.
You don't have to eat like that, but yeah, creatine enema. Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Try that and let us know how that works for you, bro.
There you go. Yeah. Let's see. There was another question up here. Oh yeah, some people were like making some other tips about, or some other points about body fat percentage. Yes, body fat percentage. The body fat percentage that you're gonna feel your best at and feel like you also feel and look your best at is very individualized.
I would love to run 15% all the time year round. I think that's where I look my best, and you probably don't. Other people probably don't agree, but that's the way I love my body the most. But it's also not the most sustainable for me either.
Let's talk about that, because I think that is another common misunderstanding that a lot of people who are new to fitness and new to training have this perception that the way their body looks is going to be like a constant, like a static, fixed thing. That there's I think sometimes there's this kind of expectation that the body fat percentage is going to stay exactly the same, or never go up from where it is, and that's the way it should be, and then also there's this idea that like this fixed static look that that I think is an expectation that I think will kill a lot of people's motivation when it comes to their making progress and making gains. Like our body fat percentage as female fitness content creators having athletic builds, our body fat percentage fluctuates throughout the year, throughout our journey, throughout our training, depending on what kind of training cycle we're on.
I will say, even as women, our when we're on our periods, we get bloated.
Yeah.
So our body fat percentage doesn't necessarily change, but you can easily find, you can see, since we're on Twitch almost daily, on the Instagrams, on the Twitters, posting pictures, you can see the difference and how our bodies are fluctuating,
right.
Even week to week.
Yeah. And it's, week to week, the amount of water that we retain, we may put on a little bit of fat one week and then trim it off. And it's not like the way that your body stores and burns fat. It's not like, okay, I ate 3,500 extra calories this week, so now my body is going to put on 1 pound fat. It goes up and it goes down at very small intervals, very small percentages, that it's going to fluctuate all, throughout your journey. And that's also part of the process that you have to trust, and be okay with, like what Terrible Hime was saying. There's a certain body fat percentage that she allows, that she's okay with allowing her body to go up to, with the understanding that her body's probably going to fluctuate between 18% and 24%. And she has decided in her mind that she's comfortable with that, that she's that she is willing to let her body look between any of those things. And I think especially for women who are afraid of who are afraid of bulking and who are afraid of increasing fat and going up in weight a little bit in order to improve their toning. That's something you gotta say.
My preference is to stay around 15, 15, 16. That's where I would love to stay year round, but it's not sustainable. And if I do want to keep building muscle, I can't stay at that leanness. It's just, I'm not gonna build if I'm just lean year round all the time.
Possibly you could build, but it would be so slowly, and you would not be able to see measurable changes for a very, 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 very long time.
I would also have to be really dialed in with my calories all the time. All the time. Be really consistently getting a specific amount of calories a day, just to gain an infinitesimal amount of a muscle. And like I said, I do not I track when I have a specific goal in mind, specifically to lose weight, but I don't have the mental capacity to track my food all year round.
Right.
Score Mattis, we touched on it earlier, but if you are trying to grow and to build muscles, unless you are a complete beginner, you do need to be in a calorie surplus. You need to be gaining a little bit of weight, even if you do so really slowly. And it's damn near impossible to put on pure muscle. So you will be gaining a little bit of fat along with that weight. So you can minimize the amount by being really dialed in with your calories and being in not being in a huge surplus, but most likely you will kind of get a little bit of both, but hopefully maximize your muscle.
So that's, for the guys, it's different because the amount of body fat that a man needs is going to be different from the amount that a woman needs. But like, again, you could just Google it. And this is basically like, someone had asked how we measure it. If we use skin calipers, there's a bunch of different ways that you can measure body fat percentage. Skin calipers
it's never going to be 100% accurate though.
Right. It's never going to be 100% accurate. You can use skin calipers. You can use, bioelectrical impedance analysis, which is a lot of smart scales have this, where it like sends a little bit of electricity through your body. And the idea is electricity moves faster through water, which is what your muscles mainly are, than through fat. And so the rate that that electricity moves will give you an idea of what your body fat percentage is versus your lean muscle tissue percentage. Those are ways that I think those are really common ways to do it. Calipers are really hard to do on your own. And even if you have somebody to do them for you, they need to be somebody who's like really experienced with it. It's very difficult to get it accurate. I actually don't think that there's anything wrong with just using an eyeball like comparison between.
I just eyeball.
Exactly. Like it's pretty. I mean, you can get a pretty good sense of it. It's there. Mm-hmm. You don't need it to be like terrible. Like I don't really know.
You don't need to know down to the exact 0.001%. Like it's in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. If you just have a basic idea, I think it's good enough for most cases. If you're like getting fit for personal reasons and you're not like a competitive bodybuilder or a competitive power lifter or just like a competitive athlete in general, it generally doesn't matter. And like you don't need to be doing the absolute most for everything.
Yeah. Somebody said that, or asked if, okay, so they heard that people store fat in different places, that it's mostly genetic. It is very much genetic, but there's a lot of like hormonal differences between male and female bodies. So female bodies we kind of tend to store our fat in sort of like a figure 8 kind of model. So like across here, our arms, the boobs area, and then down in our hips, our butt, our legs. Men, generally speaking, store fat in the belly, and then it kind of sort of like radiates out to the limbs. So when a man starts losing weight, what I've seen with my clients a lot of times is that they'll get a lot more definition. They'll notice definition more in their arms and their legs as the fat just kind of like works its way in. A lot of times that's the way that the body like burns and stores fat for men. And for women too, you'll start to notice the arms and the legs become more toned before you see the belly. And this is a problem that drives me nuts, is the hyperfixation on the belly in terms of like as a measure of progress. Your belly is the first place that your body is going to store fat in general for most people.
All your organs are, man. You're trying to protect your organs.
Exactly. If these aren't protected, it's game over. You need fat in your abdomen, a certain percentage. That's why for women, minimum amount of body fat, on average, is 15%. And
after
minimum,
that, you start losing your period and stuff. Your hormones start to get wacky.
Yeah, but as Beowulf said, some women experience those problems even at 18% and below. So 15 to 18% for some women is essential, and then for men, on average, 5% is essential. But there's variations. So your body for survival is going to tell the fat stores to fill up here before the rest of your body. And then as you burn fat stores, it's going to, in general, take it from the extremities like if you lose your hand, it's gonna suck. You could bleed to death if you don't stop the bleeding, but you have a much higher rate of survival than if you get punctured in your fucking liver, So stop hating your body for naturally doing these things that it's built to do in order to survive. You know, like we hyper fixate on the belly and the belly fat, and like this whole idea of needing to have like washboard abs or a super flat stomach is, honestly, I think it's toxic. I think it's toxic from like diet culture. It's not a realistic expectation of what healthy people look like year round. I mean, you love how your body looks at 15%. I love how my body looks when I'm at 18. 18% is like where I really love to be. But it's so hard to maintain that. I have to be very, very disciplined. My mental health gets is at a cost, because I have to track everything that I eat and drink to make sure that I'm not overshooting my calories. And I have to not skip my workouts, and I also have to make sure I get my cardio in. It is a full-time job maintaining a six-pack of abs. And most people who've been in who are fit, who have what you would think of as like toned bodies, they don't have abs all the time. So stop hating your body for looking healthy. You know, like a healthy body, normally for most people, you don't need to see abs in order to be healthy, or even in order to have a really good looking body. You know, I think if your goal is to get toned, I think the first question you need to ask yourself is, well, am I healthy? Because that's the foundation. That's the starting point. You know, get healthy first, and then you can, you know, go through like periods of or phases of training where you're focusing on developing one aspect or another of your body and sculpting your body. But if you're not healthy to start with, if you've got, you know, bullshit habits of eating and you're sedentary, you get no exercise, it doesn't matter how much you want to be toned. It's not going to happen. Get healthy first would be my recommendation.
Yeah, it's another one of those things you have to think logically. Okay, you got to think logically. Why can't I lose fat on my stomach? It's because your body is trying to keep you alive, okay? And if you're trying to lose even more fat, you got to do some extreme shit to like make it happen.
And then also remember that, like what Chris said, do it slowly. Like, so after you do a bulk and you want to get rid of your fat, if you go too fast, remember that when you're in a cut, your body is going to break down muscle too. It doesn't just break down the fat. Just like when you're in a calorie surplus and you're prioritizing building muscle. If you're giving your body that stimulus to build muscle, then you're going to redirect as much of that energy as possible, that extra energy that you're eating, towards muscle building. As long as you're doing the training part, that the majority of those calories will go towards building muscle. At the same time, when you're in a cut, if you're not doing weight training or strength training or whatever resistance training you're doing, your body is going to break down that muscle.
Specifically, if you're not eating a lot of protein in your cut, even more so than when you're bulking, you're gonna lose that muscle faster. You will probably, it's just like when you are in a bulk, you will probably gain some fat. When you're in a cut, unfortunately, you're gonna probably lose some of your muscle mass too. That's another reason why it's so difficult to lose weight and gain muscle. But you can help minimize that by keeping your protein intake like really, really high. So it's typically like 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. I personally go like straight 150 grams of protein a day, no matter what. Even when I'm in a cut, even when I weigh less than 150, I want at least 150 grams. And honestly, I try to get more most of the time.
Yeah. That way, like, because your body, when you're in a deficit, or in your body in general, you do use protein as a source of energy. Each gram of protein is 4 calories. So, you know, your body is going to need the calories. It burns a certain percentage. A percentage of the calories that your body is burning at any given time depends on what kind of activity you're doing. But there's a certain amount that your body will take from carbohydrates stored as glycogen in your muscles, from fat, either the fat that you've eaten or the body fat stored on your body, and then a certain amount from protein. And if you're not eating enough protein, your body's going to break down the muscle and your tissue and your muscle, especially if you've got bigger muscles. It's going to take the protein from that first in order to make up for that deficit. So it's incredibly important that you're giving your body enough protein, not only to continue to build muscle or to try to maintain your muscle when you're in a cut, and also have enough protein that your body is going to use for energy as well. I wouldn't survive a cut. Elmo, are you on a permabulk?
And it's okay if you guys don't want to cut.
Yeah,
it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, bro. Live your best life. Don't waste your mental and physical energy on stuff that you don't really want to do, that you're not passionate about. That's not part of your fitness journey. It's not part of your goal in life. It's okay.
Yeah.
Not necessary.
Right, it's not. I mean, what's the purpose of a cut? The purpose of a cut is to cut fat and break down the fat that your body has built. And it's usually seen more often with people who are into bodybuilding style of training, or people who are specifically training for fat loss or weight loss. But if your goals are to get strong, if you are into powerlifting, or if you just want to be strong.
Strongman?
Yeah, strongman, yeah. If your goals are like strength and performance, and you don't really necessarily care about the way that you look so much,
you don't care about your body fat percentage that much,
right? Then there's really no need to cut, as long as you are eating a healthy amount of calories and you're getting your protein. As long as you're not gaining fat, you can or gaining too much fat, I should say. You should, you don't have to cut. You don't have to cut. It's not really, there's not really a need to, unless you have a medical reason to. If you are vastly overweight, if the amount of body fat, if your body fat percentage is very high, then yeah, you probably should go on a cut in order to get your body to a healthy level. But if for a woman, if say you're hanging out at anywhere between 20 and 24%, 26%, and you're getting strong and you want to do a powerlifting meet or something like that, it's not really, as long as you're building muscle and you're staying within that range, it's not really necessary to go in a cut. It's purely for aesthetics to go on a cut, unless it's for health reasons because you are overweight. What about the C word? Whispers. Cardio. Cardio is a great way to help your body to get into a deficit. If you are concerned about burning fat, no matter whether you're in a cut or a bulk or in a maintenance phase, if you are concerned about getting your body into a deficit, making sure that your body's burning more calories than what you're eating, adding in cardio is great. You don't have to do anything crazy like high intensity interval training. You don't have to do crazy circuits. Just going for a walk and getting your heart rate up into a moderate intensity zone for 30 minutes a day can help you burn a lot of calories. Go ahead.
Oh, I personally, since I really dislike cardio, I don't do it on a regular basis, especially when I'm not cutting. I like to use it as a tool during my cuts if I need to. Typically, when I am cutting and trying to lose fat, I will do it mostly with my diet. And if I get to the point in my diet where I don't want to eat less, I will start adding in more activity. I have ongoing joint problems, so I don't like to do a lot of intense cardio. I don't like to run. I don't like to do a bunch of jumping. So I'll start adding in daily walks, nothing crazy, just a 30-minute walk. And I might start out doing 2 times a week, and then if I need to do more, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, to the point where I can, do a walk every single day if I have to. And that also works specifically for me because in my daily life, I'm pretty much sedentary. And if I even need to push it harder, I personally will start doing some high intensity interval workouts. Just a short, get it over with, get it done really fast, a 10 or 20 minute thing. And again, the same way, I will ramp up and try to reach my goal doing as little as possible. So like 1 day a week, 2 days a week, and increase slowly from there, and never just jump into something full force, ass blasting myself, like I always say. Just slowly increasing my activity and slowly decreasing my calories.
Yeah, I mean, so when it comes to maintaining your heart health, the recommendations are that you get your heart rate up minimum 150 minutes a week into the moderate intensity zone. And the way that you do this is really up to you. Some people never do cardio. Some people never actually go and get onto a treadmill or go for a walk or do anything where they're like, now I am doing cardio. But they're able to actually get the minimum requirement of cardiovascular training through their daily activity and through their lifting. I know a lot of people who are able to maintain their strength and maintain the health of their cardiovascular system even just through the exercise that they do in their activities of daily living. If you have a really active life, like one of my clients is a mechanic and he works on big trucks, and he is lifting tools and lifting machinery all day long, I never give him cardio because he gets plenty of cardiovascular training. He gets lots of steps every day. And so for maintaining heart health, he's covered. If you have a sedentary lifestyle, then you want to have activities that you put into your day. Maybe you're lifting, and for Terrible Hime, her workouts, even if she weren't talking on Twitch, right? The streams on Twitch can take 3 to 4 hours. But even without that, your workout would probably be like an hour to an hour and a half. And
yeah, so I actually, for a potential YouTube video, I cut down a 3-hour-ish stream to only the sets that I did, and it was still well over an hour, and that's after I cut out like all the warm-up stuff. So like my workouts are generally pretty intense, and probably more intense than most people need. Exactly.
And then your heart rate, especially when you're doing compound lifts or lower body exercises, when you're lifting, if you wear like an Apple Watch and or a Fitbit or something, when you actually track your heart rate, if you were to like turn it on while you're doing your strength training, you'll see that your heart rate peaks and then comes back down and then peaks, as it should when you're doing strength training. When you're focusing on strength training, you're not trying to do aerobic activity where you're maintaining your heart rate elevated at all times. But every single minute and every single second where your heart rate is elevated does actually count towards those 150 minutes a week of those are still heartbeats that count towards maintaining your heart's health. And I know a lot of lifters who lift as often as Terrible Hime does, or who lift every day, who are able to their hearts are healthy as a horse, and they're this is confirmed by their doctors, right? So you're able to do it without cardio. I know a lot of people are able to do it without cardio, but when you look at the amount of activity that these people are getting, it is usually adding up to at least 150 minutes total a week of getting their heart rates up into at least a moderate intensity zone.
I will say I don't think that I am heart healthy personally, and I always tell people I'm here for a good looking time and not necessarily a long time. Generally my resting heart rate is not the best. It's probably like around 80 BPM or something, 80 to 90.
I
really do not prioritize my heart health. I'm not a role model.
So a healthy resting heart rate is between 60 and 100 beats per minute on average. But we know some people who have like crazy low heart rates. What was it?
Yeah, really low.
Was it Diamondo, I think, has like less than 50?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Kwanju had a good question. Maybe we should just like specifically go over again just really quickly like what exactly is a cut, and they are looking for some recommendations for somebody that's morbidly obese.
Yeah, for sure. So do you want to take the first part?
So when we're talking about a cut in a fitness space, usually we're saying somebody is going into, or we are going into a phase of fat loss where we are specifically trying to lose fat, and thereby probably losing overall body weight as well.
Yeah. And when you are first getting into your fitness journey, if you're starting from scratch, you don't really need to worry too much about cuts and bulks. I think the first, 6 months of your journey, you should just focus on building a routine and getting consistent and building your discipline, because that is what ultimately is going to carry you long term, is getting into an active routine where you are getting active most days of the week, at least for 30 minutes, and doing resistance training 2 to 3 times a week, 30 minutes to an hour. And that is, for most people, the hardest part, is sticking to the routine when they're first getting started. So I think that should be your focus. Get your calendar out, open up your Google Calendar or whatever you use to plan your days or your weeks, and assign appointments for yourself of exactly when you're going to be doing your exercise, 30 minutes a day, or an hour 2 or 3 times a week, and stick to it. No matter what, no matter how you feel. Don't let other things plan over that. If you do need to reschedule it, don't skip it. Unless you are sick, you show up for your workouts. At the same time, you also need to learn how to eat healthy, because if you are overweight, or if you are massively overweight, you got to fix your diet too. So those are the 2 things that you should focus on getting solid for the first 6 months, is building these new habits, building these new practices into your life that are going to help you get healthy. Getting healthy is your number 1 goal. Build that healthy lifestyle first. In terms of like what to do during those activity times for every day, you can go on a 30-minute walk. If you don't like walking, just get moving for 30 minutes every day. Do whatever. You could go swimming, you could play Beat Saber, you could play any other kind of like rhythm game or game that you're moving around a bunch. Clean your house, mopping and cleaning, like these things can get your heart rate up. Whatever gets your heart rate up into a moderate intensity zone. And I do have directions for that, how you can figure out what your target heart rate zone is. As long as you get into that get your heart rate up, and you're able to sustain it for at least 30 minutes, you can break it up throughout the day. You can do 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 10 minutes there. As long as you're getting that in every day, that's what you need to build first. And build that, get that resistance training in too, because if you are overweight, one thing you want to try to focus on is boosting your metabolism. And the more muscle that you have, the more calories your body is going to burn every day. Your body will burn calories whenever you're moving and whenever you get your heart rate up, but you can get it to burn even more by building muscle. Just doing this alone, you can see massive gains in the first 6 months of your fitness journey. I've seen people able to cut 10 pounds in the first month just by getting moving every day and doing a little bit of resistance training 2 or 3 times a week. You can see really fast progress if you stay consistent. However, there's something that Chris and I were talking about yesterday when we were thinking about what we're going to talk about today. Be very mindful that your expectations of your progress from the first 6 months don't bleed into the rest of your journey. Newbie gains is a real thing. It can happen so fast if you're consistent. You can lose a lot of fat really quickly in the first 6 months, and you can build a lot of muscle in the first 6 months. But this can sometimes give people an unrealistic expectation of what their progress is going to look like later on down the road. The more fit you get, the more muscle you build, the more fat you burn, the more your body's going to slow down as you reach your genetic potential. And then the harder it gets to put on more muscle and to burn more fat.
So gains are not linear. Like you might feel like they are when you first start, but it's more a graph like a sharp increase and then it like flatlines almost till you get to the point where you make almost like imperceptible gains. You will keep growing for a long time until you start declining, most likely because of age. But it's one of these guys. I can't remember what it's called. I would say in the first year of like focused training and specifically like weight training, I probably put on about like 30 pounds of muscle. Maybe probably between 25 and 30 pounds. And then since then, like I always say, like after about like 3 years of lifting, my body has not looked much different since then. And I probably have not, since that first year, I probably have not even put on 10 more pounds of muscle.
Yeah, and that is something you also want to keep in mind when we're talking about bulking and cutting phases. Why they are so important is because when you reach that plateau, when you reach that flat line, if you continue to train like you did in the first year or the first 6 months of your training, you definitely have progressed, Chris. Like, I mean, we all can see the difference in what you look like even from, a year ago. I mean, like the amount of change is not at all close to what it was in the beginning before you started lifting, but you are continuing to make progress.
Yeah.
And that's because
I have also manipulated my workout program to focus on different areas, and I can see the areas that I'm focusing on are still improving.
Right, exactly. So the way that you're able to make progress at that point once you've reached that flat line is by having focused phases of your training. And that's where the bulk and the cut and maintenance phases are so important, because you're not going to have these massive gains. Say you stay consistent. Once you reach that flat line, you're going to continue doing what you've been doing, and it's very easy to become frustrated because you're not seeing the same rate of progress, or maybe your progress has slowed to a complete halt, and you might be thinking to yourself, why didn't this work so well? Why has it stopped working? And this is the cycle that a lot of people find themselves on. And I want to caution everybody against it, is being really, really strong, making a lot of progress for the first 3 to 6 months, maybe in a year. And then once you reach that flat line, it is very easy to give up, because you see, okay, this isn't working anymore. And then you stop what you're doing because it's not working anymore. And then you go a long time without doing anything. And then you restart it again. And then you make a lot of progress initially, reach that flat line, and you give up. This is that yo-yo fitness lifestyle that a lot of people find themselves back and forth. And they think that the things that they're doing initially to make progress are effective long term. And they do them only until they stop working. And the reason why you keep reaching this plateau, the reason why you keep getting off and then coming back on, is because you're not moving into the next phase, more intermediate and advanced styles of training. You can't stay at the beginner level forever and continue to make progress. Once you reach that flat line, if you really want to continue to make progress and reach your ultimate goal, that's where you need to get focused on different phases of your training. I recommend when you reach a flat line, I recommend going into a bulk for if you're just starting in your training, because maybe like for if you're obese or you've made a lot of fat loss gains in the first year, you probably have also lost some muscle and slowed your metabolism down. Your priority at that point is you want to boost your metabolism so that when you go into a cut in the future, it'll be more effective. So I would say, do whatever for the first 6 months to a year of just building this routine, getting active, and start building a little bit of muscle. And then when you flatline and you reach that plateau, that's when you go into a bulk. And I would say, as a trainer, I usually think about planning a bulk, usually 8 to 12 weeks is about kind of the amount of time that people like in terms of that. I know some people will stretch it out to 16 weeks as well, and that's totally fine. You can set a body fat percentage of when I reach this body fat percentage, then I'll cut. That's a fine way to do it. That's what Terrible Hime does. Some people will just put an end date on it. It's like, I'm gonna prioritize building muscle until this date, and focus on getting bigger or getting stronger. And then once you reach that point, whether it's 8 to 12 to 16 weeks, then you want to plan a maintenance period, which can be like anywhere between like a week or two at least, before, if you want to go into a cut at that point, before you start to plan your cut where you're going to focus on burning fat. That also, I like to stretch it out very slowly, anywhere between like 8 to 12 to 16 weeks. How fast you do your cut, it is going to affect how much progress you can make and how much fat you can lose during that time. If you're doing a mini cut, people generally will have a higher deficit. They'll cut their calories more. So like, say they want to lose a pound a week, they'll cut like 500 calories a day, which over the course of a week is 3,500 calories. This is a really aggressive style of cut, and I usually will gradually work my clients towards 500. If they want to be in a 500 calorie cut, we gradually work our way towards that, cutting off 100 and then go down to 250 and then 300 or 350, and see how they're doing along that way. And then we kind of like plan to coast at whatever deficit they're in. So until the end of the cut that we have planned, or whatever body fat percentage we have in mind. So in terms of like planning it for yourself, think like long-term, 8 to 16 weeks. But I know people who'll do for like 6 months to a year in either phase. But be very gradual with it. No more than 500 calories. If you're in a cut, it's really hard for most people to maintain 500. I feel like the easiest cut to maintain without feeling like death is like 250 calories. I feel like that's pretty moderate, and like most people are able to sustain that, give or take. And that allows you to burn roughly a half a pound a week. And again, it's not linear. You see the weight kind of like going up and down, but it trends, down as you are, in your cut. Do you have anything else to add?
I just want to add that everybody is different. And like for me personally, because I know my body and I've done multiple bulking and cutting cycles, I like to be in homeostasis, and there's nothing I can do to change that. So it's very difficult for me past a certain point. It's very difficult for me to gain weight, even in a surplus, and past a certain point, it's very difficult for me to lose weight. In a 250 or 300 calorie deficit, I would not lose weight. Personally, I have to typically, I'm on the bigger side for a woman, like 150 pounds right now, 5'8". In order for me to be losing weight, like a decent amount of weight, I have to get down to like 1,500 calories usually. And my maintenance is probably over 2,000, depending. It's around 2,000 or maybe more. But I just my body just does not like to lose weight. And then that's also at the point where I need to start adding in more activity because I don't want to be eating too much less.
Yes.
It's something like, these are all of our tips and advice is for like the general population. Right. But I don't like to say that we're all special snowflakes, but sometimes we are a special snowflake. And like some of these tips don't necessarily, specifically when talking about like calories and like macros and things like that, everybody is a little bit different, and sometimes you have to know yourself. And like for me, I know myself. A moderate calorie deficit is not enough to push me to a place where I'm consistently like losing weight, or at least I hit that point where I like lose weight and then kind of even out. Right.
I'm able to lose fat pretty quickly with just like a 250 calorie deficit, but it's because I also do cardio at the same time. Whenever I'm in a cut, I increase my cardio. because that's how I increase my deficit, you know? So my actual body's deficit, you know, when you factor in me eating below maintenance, but then also the amount of cardio that I do, when I'm on a cut especially, helps me to burn even more fat pretty quickly. So that's when you'll see a lot of people adding in cardio and using it as a tool for helping them burn more calories.
That's probably one of the reasons why I have to be in such a steep deficit. But like I said, when I get to like 1500, I'm like, okay, I can't go any lower, and that's when I do start increasing my activity, even though I don't consider it like cardio to just like go for a walk. Personally, I think it's an increase in activity. Well, you know, whatever you call it, you know, where you're moving your body for an extended period of time. But I'm not getting like the cardiovascular benefits because I'm not pushing my heart rate.
Gotcha.
I'm just doing like a normal, and like if I was just walking my dog, which I don't have, but if I did have a dog and I just walked the dog, I'm not doing anything crazy.
I actually walk dog. I have a dog and I walk him like a lot. He needs to be walked a lot, and it's good for me also to get out there. And you know, I'll just be walking at a regular pace, and then my watch will alert me that I reached my movement goal for the day or my activity goal for the day. So you might be surprised how much benefit it is for your body to just like go on walks. I know a lot of people are able to achieve a lot of fat loss, but it also like improve their health a lot just by getting up and walking.
I think when I don't go for a walk, when I just stay at home and I just do my normal home things, even with a workout, probably I don't normally wear a fitness tracker, but I do sometimes. I would say I probably get like around 3,000 steps a day. And if I go for a walk, I'm probably close to 10,000.
Yeah, that's exactly the recommendations. Like the minimal recommendation if you want to track like steps is a place to start is between 3,000 and 4,000 is like kind of the minimum recommendation. But for for like cardiovascular benefit, the recommendation is between 7,000 and 10,000 steps. It's kind of arbitrary. The 10,000 steps is kind of like an arbitrary number that just floated up at some point. But between 7,000 and 10,000 steps. So that's I think, girl, you're doing cardio.
Yeah, but I don't. I'm saying I don't think I'm getting like the heart benefits. But maybe I am. Who knows? I can't say.
I think you are.
It's possible, but like I said, I don't maintain that when I'm not in a deficit. When I'm not trying to lose weight, I'm just like now I'm having a hard. I get to the point where I have a hard time gaining weight. So yeah, but it's whatever.
I think. Would you say you're probably like close to your genetic potential at this point after 7 years of 8 years of lifting?
Probably, but I will say at the same time, I know I'm not like 100% optimal with my diet and my exercise because I'm streaming my workouts. I'm taking really long rest breaks, and if I was had a more regimented like rest time in between sets, that would probably help. I'm also, although I do sometimes track my calories when I'm in a bulk, even when I'm in a cut, I don't track my macros necessarily. I have my calorie intake and I have my 150 grams of protein, and everything else I kind of just like carbs and fats I don't worry too much about. In general, they kind of like usually turn out pretty on point for what I would give myself. Like I like to have like 50 grams of fat a day at least for general hormonal health and things like that. But I don't try to get it in like 100% because it's too much to think about. Man, I'm already hangry all the time. I'm mad about walking. I'm not recovering well, and I don't have the mental capacity to worry about those things. So like I know that there are things that I could do that would maybe help me just a little bit more, but some things I cannot budge on to keep my sanity.
So that was something that we did want to talk about, was like mental health and like how to prepare yourself mentally for what you're going to experience when you are in a bulk versus when you are in a cut. You know, because like there are different threats to mental health, specifically as women. I think a lot of women face this, but I know dudes that face this as well too. When you are in a cut, let's talk about the cut first. We've talked about, you know, why do a cut and why do a bulk, why we do these things. We have also talked about like how to plan them, different ways that you can plan them, and when to start to use them in your training. Now, what can people expect when they start implementing bulk phases and cut phases into their workout routines? Like, in terms of your experience, how do you experience a cut? We'll talk about the cut first. How is that on your mental, emotional health, the process of maintaining a cut?
It's a struggle. And a lot of times people in chat or like people on the internet are like, oh, you should do like a bodybuilding competition. And I'm just, you don't want to see me streaming if I was trying to get prepped for a bodybuilding competition. Mm-hmm. I personally get incredibly hangry. Like when my mood is very dependent on like how hungry I am and how like full my stomach is. So like I don't necessarily, I know this is a thing, like people struggle with cravings. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily struggle with cravings so much since I am doing like a very loose, if it fits your macros, if there's something I really want, I can fit it in. But I struggle with the quantity of food. I get to the point where I'm just like, I want to feel like I ate something, and sometimes I'm feeling just like my stomach is empty.
Yeah.
And it also gets harder and harder to maintain the amount of protein I need. So the less calories I have to work with, the harder it is to get in my 150 grams of protein a day. And I have to start doing like wacky stuff with my food, and I have to start cutting out more of the things that I like because I have to make room for the protein part of my meals. You just have to just be okay with being uncomfortable, I think.
Yes, yeah.
Because when you're also in a deficit and you're still working out, your recovery is much worse.
Yeah, that's my problem with cuts. I mean, of course, like I'm able to work with hunger. Like, I mean, of course I get hangry. Chat has seen me hangry when I'm like hyper focused on a video game and I haven't eaten in a little bit. But
even when you're in like long workouts.
Yeah, exactly.
Towards the end of the workout.
Yeah, right. And I'll get hangry. So yeah, like I'll get hangry when I haven't eaten in a while. But I generally speaking can work that way. Like, of course my mood sucks. The thing that I find hardest to deal with when I'm in a cut is the recovery is so hard. It takes so much longer to recover from a workout. I can't work out to the intensity that I enjoy. I am a person that enjoys pushing myself. I like working out. I like working out hard. And when you're in a cut, you don't have the energy that you normally have when you are eating the amount of calories that your body needs for maintenance or in a surplus. And then after, even if you like, I don't know, just like ass blast yourself with caffeine and pre-workout in order to like, you know, really push yourself hard, when you are done with the workout, you are like, I'm catatonic. The rest of the day, I can't get shit done because I am exhausted and I need so much more sleep. And this is something that Fanatic brought up last time he was in a cut, and he was coming out of his cut, is you are much more susceptible to illness when you're in a cut because your body is functioning on low power mode. And so in low power mode, you have less energy to devote towards your immune system, fighting off illness. So these are all things that can affect you when you're in a cut that you need to consider. So for people who are always dieting and they're always feeling bad, they have this expectation that that's what they need to feel like in order to like be making progress or whatnot. And that's not healthy to stay like cuts are not really optimal for health.
A cut is not a lifestyle. A cut is like a phase.
Right. Yes, I love that. It's not a lifestyle. And I think a lot of times people live a diet lifestyle or live a I'm going to ass blast myself with my workouts lifestyle, but not get the recovery. So if you are going into a cut, you need to make sure that you are, making sure that you're taking your vitamins because you're probably not going to be getting in as much, micronutrients as your body needs to help your body fight off infections and illness. And also plan to sleep more. You're going to be sleepier. You'll need to go to bed earlier, give yourself more sleep because your body will be less efficient at recovering.
I would say the less I eat, the more I sleep, and the more caffeine I need to take to be functional. Yes.
And I also, in terms of like the mental health thing, it's that's also a struggle. Like, maintaining a cut is brutal on your brain because most of the time you need to be tracking what you eat and being very meticulous about it because every calorie counts when you're on a cut.
You're using a lot of brain power thinking about like what you're doing for the cut, and like that's brain power you're taking from other things. I when I was like deep in my cut, I didn't not use social media, but like I stopped posting on YouTube as much. I stopped posting on TikTok just because I didn't have the energy. I couldn't like think of what to do. I couldn't like I was having a hard time coming up with concepts. Like I didn't have just the mental capacity to just like try to multitask like my day job and like other things. Right. And I also I would say when you're in a cut, you lose your hair much faster. So you're always losing your hair a little bit. Hopefully it's not like a genetic hair loss where it's permanent, but you're always, you take a shower and you see like a little pile of hair in the drain. But when I'm cutting, I lose it like 2 or 3 times faster, like 2 or 3 times as much. And like that also takes like a mental toll on me personally. I'm not gonna say like my whole personality is like based around my hair, or like I base my whole appearance on my hair, but like I like my hair and I like the way it looks, and I like having like my long, relatively thick hair, and like it hurts my heart to see like all this hair coming out like when I take a shower. But I know that when I increase my calories again, it drastically reduces. It normalizes a lot. So that's another thing to like keep in mind, that these things are normal. My nails are more brittle, they break more easily, they don't grow as fast. Right. Usually my skin is nicer though, I will say, because I'm probably eating healthier. My skin usually looks a lot better. But
and your skin can get affected as well because just the hormones as well. The lower your intake when your body is in low power mode, your body's going to put less effort towards extra activities. So sometimes you might notice that your skin gets worse if you're having fewer calories, just because your body's just not devoting as much energy to other things. And it's just like these are things that you want to be aware of when you're thinking about planning a cut, because when you are in a cut, you need to be in a space, like a mental health space, to be able to sustain it. I've known people who have started a cut and then something drastic has happened in their life that's a big stressor for them. They switch jobs, or they have to move into a new house, or they break up with their significant other. These are things that these are things that take energy from your brain, and it makes it harder to maintain and do the things that you need to do when you're in a cut if you have these other things going on in your life. So you kind of have to be in a mental health space in order to be able to sustain a cut. So I wouldn't recommend going into a cut or a really serious cut if unless it's like for health, right? If you're trying to lose fat because you're overweight. If you are at a healthy body fat percentage, I wouldn't recommend going into a cut unless other things in your life are relatively stable. Because
if you know something is coming up, you probably should wait on that cut.
And this is what drives
some stuff like just like happens and you have no way of planning for it. But like if you know.
Yeah. This is what gets me when women reach out to me and they want me to help them lose a lot of weight really fast before their wedding. It never works. I mean, it's so hard for it to work.
Sometimes it works, but they gain it all back right after.
Exactly.
Because it's not a sustainable lifestyle.
Exactly. And also what I find, it's very hard for them to actually follow through on it because their life, they have so many other extra appointments. Their routine is not set. And so, that's a lot of times like brides-to-be will be the ones to cancel sessions and, just like skip workouts and not do what they want to do. It's tricky. You also can get the ones who are super motivated, who are like, I got this end game goal in mind and I want to show up for it. But it's hard. Like if your life isn't relatively stable, and you have big things coming up, it's not a good idea to cut, significantly. You need to focus on health. Added stress into a wedding too. Oh yeah, because you're already gonna be like hangry and stuff. And like somebody said, they knew somebody who broke up with their boyfriend on a cut. And I remember a girlfriend of mine who did compete in bodybuilding. So she was doing the extreme version of cutting. In preparation for a show. What bodybuilders do is not necessarily healthy, and what we would recommend for normal people. But
it's really not healthy at all.
Yeah, it's not. And I remember a girlfriend of mine, she actually told her grandma that she didn't love her when she was preparing for her bodybuilding competition. And there was another thing that she did that was like really crazy too, because she wasn't in her right mind. She was starving and she was, in a really bad place. So these, not to scare everybody from the cut, but just know going into it, it is a mental stress. And in order to do it, this is another reason why you want it to be short term. You don't want to live, this is not a lifestyle. It's something planned, it's something small. Like the more extreme cut, the more all of these issues you're going to face, and more extreme. But if you're doing something slow, like Terrible Hime recommended, doing a very slow, gradual, over a long period of time, a very small deficit, starting with a small deficit, and just unless you are very advanced, you can go a long way with just a small deficit. For most people in their first couple of years of training, you'll be okay with a smaller deficit, especially if you're also getting active. But just know that these things could appear for you. So just know them going into it and be ready with a plan of action of how you're going to handle these things if they pop up. Prepare your family, prepare the loved ones in your life. Like everybody needs to.
That's why I keep telling people, you don't want to see me if I was going to do a competition. You don't want to see me on stream. The whole chat would be banned. Y'all would just get on my nerves.
Exactly. Yes. So those are things like in the extreme, you can get all of these things. Some people don't experience all of them, but just manage your expectations. Let's talk about also the expectations to manage for when you're going into a bulk. The different ways that bulks affect you physiologically and mentally and like emotionally. You go first.
You're probably gonna feel some type of way about gaining weight. I mean, that's like the bottom line. You know that you're doing it to gain muscle, but you're gonna feel some type of way because you're gonna gain weight and you're probably gonna gain some amount of fat, and you're not gonna look as aesthetic as you're used to, especially if you have been a little bit leaner for a while. Mm-hmm. Or especially if you're coming out of a cut and kind of, you might maintain for a little bit, but jump right into a bulk and go from pretty lean to like on the chubbier side, and it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, yeah,
Doesn't feel nice.
And that, I mean, it also can happen really quickly. Like there's it's not static. Like you'll have in your bulk initially, whenever you start to increase your calories, if you're starting to reverse diet and gradually increase your calories, what your body a lot of times will do like these blips, right? Where it's like you will increase your body fat, your body weight will go up, and then it kind of come back down and stabilizes, and then you increase the calories again, it comes up, and then it stabilizes. And when you're doing it gradually, you'll see that. So it's not going to be like this. There's going to be days where you're going to feel more bloated than other days. But what's interesting is I've also found that the days that I feel the most, self-conscious, I guess, about my body fat percentage having gone up because I'm in a bulk are the days that when I get on stream, I get lots and lots of compliments for how much how pumped I look. Yeah. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of compliments on, like, someone said, like, what have you been eating lately? Keep eating like that. And I'm like, Cheetos? But so
you also feel a lot stronger too.
Oh yeah, and it's fun to be strong. I love being on a bulk because, so like I wake up in the mirror and I don't have as much definition in my abs. And I can feel some type of way about that. That's my initial gut reaction. But when I start stream, I warm up and I hit the weights, it feels so fucking good to move that weight and to go up in the amount that I can lift, adding more reps, adding more weight. It is fun to be strong. Lifting on a bulk is the funnest you will ever the most fun you'll ever have in lifting or whatever style of training you're doing. When you are in a calorie surplus, you feel awesome. You have the energy. You can really push yourself and push your limits. Your performance will go up so much when your body has the energy stores that it needs in order to exceed. So if you want to increase your performance, if you want to excel in your performance, you want to excel in your strength, you got to give your body that extra energy stores. So that fat is not, it may not look the way that you want it to, but that fat is actually a good thing. That's your extra energy. That little bit of fat that you put on during your bulk, that fat is probably the extra 5 pounds that you can add onto your bench press. That little extra fat may be turning your previous 1 rep max into a 3 rep max, because you have the energy. And that is why the bulk is so important, because that's how it empowers you. So it's especially as women growing up with magazines and Britney Spears and the quest for the flat tummy, that is a mental health concern for women who are in a bulk, and men too as well. When you look at yourself in the mirror when you're on a bulk and you see that you don't match the aesthetic, I think it's very true what a lot of times we hear people in the fitness industry say. You can have abs or you can be strong. It's very hard to do both at the same time. If you are very, very lean, you're probably not at your strongest. It's like you can be lean or you can be strong. You can be lean or you can get stronger. It's very hard to be very lean and very strong at the same time. So when you're trying to improve one or the other, it's so important to focus. What else would you add?
Dot.
Leg day after pizza is, oh God, gamer. It's amazing. Yes.
So good.
But, you also got to be careful about what kind of bulk you're doing. If you are dirty bulking, one thing that you want to be mindful of is the kinds of foods that you're eating can sometimes make the recovery harder, because if you're eating a lot of stuff that's like processed foods, like with lots of salt, it can increase inflammation in your body.
Water retention.
Yeah, exactly. Water retention. So what you're bulking with will also determine what your body looks like. So if you're in a dirty bulk and you're eating Cheetos every day, like me, right now, I eat healthy otherwise, but I let myself have my Cheetos, okay? I get my veggies in, I get my protein in, but my Cheetos they are a crucial part of my bulk. But when on the days that I do eat Cheetos, I feel a lot achier because my body, there's a lot of sodium, my body retains a lot more water, and then the next day I look a lot more puffy because my body is retaining that water. I can be in a
your
calorie.
weigh-ins are probably more too.
Mm-hmm.
If you're weighing yourself on the daily.
I can be in the calorie surplus that I need to be, eating quote unquote clean with mostly vegetables, whole, like fresh meat or whatever source of protein, and not eating super processed foods. And I'll look a lot leaner when I am clean bulking, so to speak. When the majority of the food that I'm eating, or if not all the food that I'm eating, is not like super processed foods. So the foods that you're getting your calorie surplus from have a huge impact on what your body looks like when you are in a bulk. So if you're concerned about looking really lean while you're bulking, it's really important to be as mindful of your diet and tracking your diet and tracking and planning your food as you would be while you're in a cut. Now, can you mentally, emotionally, mental health wise sustain that level of monitoring your diet when you're in a bulk? You have to answer that question for yourself. Where Chris and I are at right now, we've both been very, very controlled about our diets during our cuts and my maintenance phase, and we're tired, mentally, emotionally tired. So we're relaxing a little bit. For this bulk around the holidays, I'm always very loose with it. I'm probably going to continue to bulk, if not stay at a maintenance level once January comes, but I will clean it up, right? No more cookies, no more cake, or very little of that. But I'm giving myself grace for the holiday season. So keep that in mind as well. Like what you choose to eat during your bulk and how planned you are about it will also determine what your body looks like. Are we talking puffs or regular Cheetos? We're talking about those like white cheddar cheese puffs. Those white cheddar.
I prefer regular Cheetos. No
I'm
Cheeto
all about
shade.
the puffs. I'm about the puffs.
I like the flamin' hot Cheetos, regular Cheetos, the crunchy guys, the skinny, kind of janky looking guys.
Croce says some people are more salt sensitive than others too. Yeah, for some people, when they have just a little bit of salt, it really affects their body. Just remember that processed food in general is going to increase the amount of inflammation you have in your body. Some people also are gluten sensitive, and when they eat gluten, it greatly increases inflammation in their body.
Lactose
and lactose as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I could easily replace my Cheetos with some pasta, or whole grain bread, and I probably would feel I probably would feel less sore on the days that I have Cheetos, or on the days that I would eat that, by getting my calories from cleaner foods or less processed foods.
When you have more muscle mass, you can put on more fat and look a little bit better. Like, what I think one of the reasons why when I was in bulking phases before, like I didn't feel, obviously I didn't feel like I was looking my best, but I didn't think I looked that bad either, is because I still had I had a good muscle base, and like even at my heaviest at like 160, 170, like you could still see some muscle definition.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I didn't have like abs anymore, but like my butt was nicely shaped. I still had like decent definition in my shoulder and arms, and like for me personally, I always have like a good amount of definition in my chest, because like I'm kind of skew towards like typical men's like body fat distribution, where like usually my arms and my chest are really lean, but I gain a lot of weight around my stomach faster than other places.
Yeah. Same. I have noticed that even though my body fat percentage has gone up from this bulk, people are commenting that it doesn't look like that at all, because I'm increasing the muscle you know, my muscle mass is increasing. And so, yeah, you're able to get away with a lot more as well.
Yeah.
If you can just get over the number on the scale. Because some people will...
Get over it, bruh.
Yeah, get over it. Just put the scale away. But, I mean...
Yeah, if you have to, for your mental health, like I said, for me personally, I like to have all the data, and I like to see the trends when I put it into MyFitnessPal, and it shows the graph to see whether I'm going up or down over time. But if for your mental health, that's really damaging, try to find a different way to track your progress. You know, you can do it by taking pictures and comparing like before and after pictures. You can do it by measurements. Sometimes that helps people. Daily weigh-ins is not the be-all end-all to like how you can track your progress.
Yeah. Shirts look so good on a Volk. Just a stream where we destroy a scale with a sledgehammer. I mean, for some people, they might need to. I think for myself, a couple years ago, I'm a big fan of the Mind Pump podcast and that entire media company. So they put out really good information. And I remember them talking about, each of them has been a trainer for like 20 plus years. And talking about the expectations of like the scale versus how you actually look like. And, they told a story about this one woman that one of them worked under, or that worked under them. And, they had this client who was interested in weight loss. And she was, in weight loss. And she didn't really like have a horrible like body fat percentage. Her body fat percentage was pretty close to what we consider healthy. And she was like really fixated on this idea of weight loss. And they pointed to the female trainer, who's this like, she's 5'3". She's my size essentially. She's 5'3", and asked the client, how much do you think she weighs? And the client was like 120, and the trainer said 140. I'm 140 pounds, but I look like I'm 120 pounds. And that's where building muscle and, building muscle and burning fat and going through these stages like this trainer had done, had given her a body that's like tight and compact to where she looked lighter than what she was. And, she could feel some type of way about being 140 on the scale, but knowing what she actually looked like, it's like at that point, it's a non-issue, right? So you kind of have to know that as you're recompositioning your body, just have that in mind and just tuck that away in your mind, is that it is possible to be heavier. You can have a body that's 120 pounds that looks heavier than someone's body who's 140 pounds, but it's 140 pounds of mostly muscle. And when you see the two side by side, there's no question about which one you would prefer to be. But what it takes to get there is being very systematic, very consistent, and being very planned about your training phases.
I think now might be a good time to pull out some of those like before and after pictures.
Yay! Okay, so we're gonna just go through yours.
Take progress pictures, everyone, because you can't remember what it was. Okay, so this picture right now that Jade is showing, I can't remember exact weights, but on is that the left side? On the smaller side, I would say I'm probably close to like 140. That was looking like the bottom of a cut a few years ago, and on the bigger side, I was probably like between 160 and 170 at the top of a cut. And you can see though, even at the top of the cut, like I don't think I looked that bad personally. Like my face, I wasn't, that's not like the best lighting for my face, but completely unflexed, I don't think that looks kind of the worst. I'm 5'8". I'm 5'8".
Just tell me when you want the next one.
And right now, my current physique, I'm around 150. and probably around 18% body fat. So for me, it's been like an ongoing, like, I started out really skinny. Like, what's the next picture? Can you show the picture of like the very before, where I'm wearing the red shorts, and then like the more recent photo?
Yeah.
So this is like a kind of like a true before and after, where the before picture, I was, I think in my early 20s. This is like when Joey and I first got together. I was doing like martial arts, a little bit of martial arts. I was not doing any weight training at all. I wasn't even doing like specific cardio or anything. It was purely martial arts, and we were about to start like P90X. I think in that picture, I'm close to like 100, maybe like 115 to 120 pounds. And in the after picture, which I think was taken during like the first Twitch powerlifting meet, maybe like a year or so ago, I'm probably about 150 pounds. And like, I know the pictures, they don't match up very well, but even though I'm probably like 30 pounds heavier, in the before picture, I had no visible muscle definition. Like, I was skinny, but like I had no visible abs. Like, you can't see, the only thing you see in my chest and my shoulders are bones, you know? And like, that's kind of like the difference, like the power of lifting weights and bulking and cutting cycles. And if you go back a picture, that's like me at the top of a bulk, and then at the bottom of the next cutting cycle. And you can see, even though like my arms look bigger in the one on the left where I'm bigger, I'm so much more shredded. But there's probably like a 20 or 30, probably closer to like a 20-pound difference between those pictures, because I was at the top and I tried to lose a bunch of fat. I probably lost a little muscle as well, but like, I was doing my best to keep my protein high and try to maintain my muscle mass.
Yeah.
So, it's like, for me, it's like an ongoing process of like, gaining weight to build muscle, and then losing some of the fat, gaining weight again to build muscle, lose some of the fat, and gain weight till I can get to the point where I can maintain the level of leanness and look how I want with a decent amount of muscle mass, and kind of like coast from there. But at this point, I'm still not where I want to be.
And you had a really amazing transformation, because you have been lifting weights consistently for 7 years now, right?
Close to 8, I think. 8
years. It's a huge difference. I didn't have a whole lot of time to put mine together, but I just have one. Even just like with this picture this is exactly a year ago today, the picture on the outside. And, you know, I was just getting into, I didn't have any equipment at home. This was the beginning of the pandemic, or close to the beginning of the pandemic. It was October last year. I was just doing body weight training and bag work. It was just boxing and kickboxing at that point. For my resistance training, it was all body weight stuff. So I was actually able to get pretty strong just by doing once a week weight training, because I would meet up with my friends on Sundays, and we would just get together. So it was just like once a week, and I was able to maintain that physique. But once I actually got my squat rack and the weights that I got from my buddies, then I was able to start actually putting on some muscle. And I just like the biggest thing that I love here is just the thickness of the legs and the booty gains. Like, I had a big booty.
Your arms too.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
Look how much more muscular your arms are. I mean, I realize that you're not flexing so much in like the first picture, but still.
Yeah. Well, I actually do have a picture of. Let me see if I can pull it up here. I do have another one that kind of shows the difference where I am actually flexing.
Yeah. I mean, because I've seen it, and anybody else who's been to your stream has seen it. Like, you have a lot of definition now in your shoulders and arms, and like even in your legs. Like when you do like a abs and eyes type of pose, like you can see like the shapes of the muscles.
Yeah, and then for this one, yeah. So this is like flexing. This is like this very beginning of pandemic, and those are my biceps then. And this was, basically like cutting for a long time. I was at a deficit for a really long time here because of stress. So I wasn't eating very much, but I was like continuing to train, and I was doing like a lot of boxing and everything. And then, this is most recent picture, like a couple of days ago. And this is what my arms look like only when I'm flexing. Like if I'm just like, like this, like my arms, they don't look that muscular,
even me being a little bit leaner, if I just like go out, even if I'm wearing a tank top, I don't think I look that different than most other people. Like you have to be like have really big muscles and be like really really lean to like actually look like you lift in an IRL like day-to-day setting. Like you just go to the grocery store and nobody would even know you work out.
Right.
Like you're not walking around like this.
Yeah, exactly.
At the grocery store trying to like flex on people.
Right, so. Right. And I think I like that we brought that point up because we are, we do focus a lot on like weight training for women. And there's like, for a lot of women, one of the reasons why they don't want to bulk is because they don't want to look bulky. And, looking at you now, you are the same person as in, that picture there where you're standing like and with the red shorts compared to the one at the powerlifting meet. Okay, so like even that, like, so there you're actually like flexing, and you have even more muscle now than you did then. And
probably a little bit, yeah. I think in my shoulders, like you can kind of tell.
And like your physique is exactly like if I were to show one of my clients and say, you want to look like her, like when you're just like relaxed, and they'd say, yeah, that's the look that I'm going for. That's the look that I want.
And then I do this, and it's like, that what you really want? Is that what you really, really want?
Right? Yeah, and so there's that other thing that I think a lot of people need to like have your expectations realistic. If you want to look toned, you want to have muscle toning. Muscle toning looks like this, but it also looks like this. You can't have one. You can't like pick and choose. It's one or the other. And honestly, the women that I choose to work with long term are the ones who are like, hell yeah, look at your bicep, girl. How would I get like that? Because that's what it takes. And you know what? Like, I would ask you to question, why are you so afraid of getting muscles in the first place? Like, why is it that you perceive muscles to be a bad thing or ugly?
Or too manly.
Yeah, or too manly. Because I think that there's some self-image things there, some cultural, like toxic expectations, systematic expectations of feminine beauty that if you really think about it, maybe you don't really want to buy into. Personally, I like the ideal of a strong woman. I like the ideal of being a strong woman. I can do things. Strong, independent streamer who don't need no man. I'm just kidding. Strong, independent woman who don't need no man, but has lots of buddies to help out. But like, I like being capable. I like being able to do things myself. I like to be an empowered person. And part of my empowerment is how strong I am. I can move things myself. I can do things myself. That to me is part of what I see as beautiful in myself. So even though I might not actually have the body fat percentage where I feel like I look the most aesthetic, my strength and my capacity to do things and not have to ask other people to do things for me is another aspect of my beauty that I appreciate about myself and I love about myself, is my ability to do these things that I have worked to be able to do. I have earned this, and that's like a type of beauty that like we all have access to if we put the work in. I don't understand why some women think being strong and muscular is somehow unfeminine. Well, I talked about this like in my last stream. It's like it all really comes down to like the patriarchy background that our society is built on, you know, where the idea is like the man's job is to do the things and go out there in the world and make the money, and the woman's job is to make the babies and raise the babies, and the woman has to be taken care of. And there's all kinds of justifications to fit into this model of structuring society. And you know, part of the argument is that women are weaker than men and therefore need to be protected, therefore need to be taken care of, which, you know, we all need to be taken care of. We all, you know, need mutually to be taken care of. But, you know, the idea of the delicate damsel in distress is just one of those like fairy tales that we're taught from when we're really, really young to get us to idealize, you know, this idea of being like seeking out a man to take care of you and letting you do the important things while the women stay at home, you know.
I will say though, like, this is no tea, no shade to anybody. If you, in your heart of hearts, are like, yeah, this is the kind of relationship I want. I am tired. I got shit on my mind. I would love for somebody to come in and take care of me. I enjoy doing these kind of things. I like taking care of the home. I love children. I like taking care of the children. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I just worry personally about, just you being overly influenced by social media, by the patriarchy and things like that. And I feel the same way about how people want to look. Like, if you love a soft feminine body, if that's your ideal, that's amazing. I hope you reach all of your physical goals. If you like to be fluffier, if you like to have more body fat, like, that's great, bro. If you don't like working out at all, I'm not here to try to force you to work out. I just, I hope everybody makes these decisions and has these ideas on their own without being influenced by society.
Yeah, well said. Because the thing is, some of my favorite clients have been housewives who have been the strongest. Because, you know, being a housewife and being a good one is a lot of work. It's you know,
it's not for
impossible. Yeah, as
Yeah.
we said at the beginning. But what I'm talking about is like the societal like expectations, which also are, you know, they don't match up with reality, right? Because the idea is like, oh, the woman stays home because like she needs to be taken care of. Meanwhile, she's like doing more work than anybody, right? And she,
and her
you know,
work never ends because
and her work
she's
never
at home
ends.
all the time.
Exactly. So
And
she
you can't-
especially
you can't clock out of your kids. You can't
Right.
clock out of like cooking. Like, if you're cooking like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you don't only eat within 8 hours. Bruh.
Yeah, and housewives are like overworked and underfed a lot of times, malnourished, because it's just like a job that never ends. So even in practice, when you take these ideas and you look at how they actually work in practice, it's, you know, women are not actually, should not be kept like weak and delicate, I think especially if you're doing that kind of work. You know, make your body strong, and be healthy. At least prioritize your health, you know. And it's, the amount of unpaid labor the average housewife does, exactly. But you know, when we're talking about expectations and where that ideal comes from, the whole idea of the delicate female who must be taken care of, and the practices that justifies, which don't necessarily match up with the ideal, I guess is what I'm saying. I'd be clocking out from my kids. Screw that. Yeah.
But who's clocking in when you're clocking out?
Exactly.
That's what I'm asking.
Right. I think we're approaching about the time that I need to get ready to go, because I'm going to go help a badass mom take care of her babies, because it is a full-time job. She's doing it with 3 hours of sleep.
On top, doesn't she have a regular full-time job also on top of that?
she does property management, real estate. So she can work a lot from home, but she still has to go to places. And I mean, she's still, yeah. The other day when I was
from home is still working.
Oh yeah, it's still freaking working. And actually the other day the toddler like climbed up on a chair and climbed up onto her laptop and started pressing buttons, and she had her work email open. So it's it's so impossible how she does it while maintaining a smile on her face and still managing to be loving and nurturing and kind and sweet is a mystery to me. But if you are interested in the toned or muscular, aesthetic, I hope that you will be able to take some of the stuff that we talked about today and think on it, because now moving forward with an empowered and informed understanding of what it really takes, then you can maybe manage your expectations.
Okay, but also don't get scared, okay? Don't let us scare you away. I know it sounds complicated. It's not that complicated, okay? Just do something and watch what you're eating and slowly build your habits, build the consistency, and add more complex parts as you get more advanced.
Yeah. So what a lot of the more technical stuff that we talked about today is for people who are more advanced. The more advanced you go, the more technical you have to get, the more specific you have to get.
Yeah.
But it does take time to get to that, the Terrible Hime aesthetic. It takes time. It takes years of consistent.
Don't ass blast yourself.
Yeah, don't ass blast yourself. Put in the work consistently and just practice that progressive overload over time, adding more stuff, adding more complexity, more focused stages to your training, and you'll reach your goals. It takes 5 hours of sleep. Okay, second son. This has been inspirational.
Yay! If I can do it on 5 hours of sleep, you can do it on 5 hours of sleep.
Right?
Okay?
Yep.
Probably less sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
Don't forget to be responsible for your own gains.
Yes, and control your cock.
And don't be a dick.
And eat your veggies.
And
drink water.
You can drink other stuff too, but you have to drink water also.
Right, yeah. And yeah. Roll it, yes.
Yeah. Everybody control it. And if you don't know what we're saying when we say control your cock, don't send unsolicited dick pics, okay?
Yeah, and
don't be weird at the gym. Don't try to talk to people that don't want to talk to you.
And also, don't be mean or rude to people that you are interested in dating if they're not interested in you.
Don't be jerks to service workers, okay?
Yes, absolutely. Just, try to be a better person today than you were yesterday. And then do that again tomorrow.
It's okay to have a dick, but don't be a dick.
Exactly. All right, so please go give Terrible Hime a follow, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. It's been a really fun time. I gotta go walk my boy and get him ready for weekend with the babies. He's doing this weekend. Do
a little flex for you at the end. I can't tell if I'm on screen.
You are, but there we go. And yes.